Yo, what's good, what's really good? Welcome to What's Really Good, the podcast, and I'm your host, Mr. Matthew Lipsey. Today I have a special guest in here, Mr. Solomon Carpenter. How you doing, Mr. Carpenter?
Yo, I'm good, Matt. What's good, man? Long time. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. You're all right. So, Mr. Solomon Carpenter, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Solomon Carpenter. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Born in Grand Rapids, but I moved here probably around 3 or so. My sister, she already came to in Grand Rapids, so I would say I came to Kalamazoo about 3 years old, and I've been here ever since.
Born and raised on the east side, right?
Yeah, not born, but yeah, who I am today, yeah, the Kitchens, the Carpenters, and the east side, they all made me, yeah.
Okay, I understand. I hear you. So I brought you on the show because you ran for city commissioner. Tell me a little bit about the process to get on the ballot. Is it a hard process?
No, the process is pretty straightforward. I mean, you know me, I just grabbed the information. They said, 50 signatures, and I'm thinking like, man, I got 600 signatures in my backpack, so 50 should be no problem.
Right.
I get the information, I just tear off into it, and unbeknownst to me, I had to be inside a certain range in the city, you know, and not the township, not the pavilions and all that kind of stuff. And so I turned in the ballot, man. It's funny because I get a call and they say, 14 of these signatures is no good, right? Mm. So she said, you got to come down and get another petition and bring back 14 signatures. So I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll bring back 20. She was like, oh, no, you can only get 14. Yeah, so the last 14, I'm asking everybody, man, show me your ID. Where you getting your mail at? You know, I'm like really interrogating people to make sure that I don't air this petition and just, you know, doing the process from the start. So, but yeah, other than that, it was pretty easy to get on.
Pretty easy process. So tell me, what got you into that? What got you into wanting to get into politics and government?
So, you know, I mean, I guess I've always been that kind of soapbox guy, you know, from, you know, way back.
As far as you can remember?
Yeah, back since a very young man. And, you know, sometimes I give good information, sometimes bad, but it was always me being vocal about things. And politics, I guess, probably came in just through, you know, music, and the era that I came in with was more of a socially conscious, you know, time before what we got going on now. And I wrote a program up for some youth, and I showed it to somebody, and she had advised me. She said, okay, man, maybe you should get some signature support. And then, you know, we can revisit this. Mm-hmm. So in the process of getting the signature support, I was getting like 40, 50 signatures, you know, from everybody, right? Because I'm, you know, pretty known in some of the spots I was at. So I was like, you know, if I'm getting all these signatures, I might as well go for office, right?
Right.
And then it'd be easier for me to kind of usher in some of the programs that I had, you know, geared up and ready for the city. And I was going to shoot for the moon. I'm like, man, I'm just going to go for mayor. You know, everybody know me. Mm-hmm. You know, what I'm trying to do is awesome, you know, because it had morphed from a youth program into actually, I, you know, said, you know, maybe we could bring some of the Kalamazoo Promise money back into the household, right? Instead of sending that, you know, free college out 18 years from a kindergartner, what if we could sprinkle in, you know, up to $200 a month in a city coin that could, A, help the kid, and B, support small businesses within the city, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, well, the problem with that is, well, with the youth, with the program was we will be rewarding bad behavior, right, with the youth program. But if we brought it into the city as part of the schools systems, then we will be rewarding and promoting, success.
Right.
So I said, well, yeah, if I'm gonna do this, then all the students' parents gonna want it. 10,000 votes. You know what I mean?
I feel you.
And during that time, I just figured, we'll go from there with it. And amongst other things, I really had felt strong about it. And then, of course, when man playing, God laughs is what I've heard. So, I'm gearing up and I'm like, yeah, I'm got some things coming through the pipeline on some other levels. And I'm like, man, I'm finna really try to go for this. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, here come, S-curve right out of nowhere. So
roadblock.
Right. And obstacles and whatever else. So it was like, you know what, let me just kind of sit back, regain my composure and kind of focus back on myself as opposed to bringing on another assignment onto my plate, along with being a father and everything else. It was like, it became overwhelming to a certain degree to where I had to balance out my time and my day and my energy. And it was like, the candidacy, the things that I want to do inside the city don't really take me to be the commissioner. So, if I get a good turnout, I got a chance of being one of the 3 seats available or elected. And if I get a good turnout and it goes, it goes. So.
Right. So I remember a while back, in your neighborhood on the east side, you was doing something with the Rockwell Park and the rims and the basketball. You was trying to get the park together for the youth. So you said you was going to try to do something with the promise and this and that. What other ideas that you was thinking in your head if you'd have got the commission spot?
One of the major things that I would like to have looked at was, how do we restore, the wealth in the community. And I think that we got a lot of pitfalls in money vouchers, from the liquor stores to the dispensaries to the DoorDashes and Ubers. I think that as a city, we could have came out with, the technology, which already exists, right, to where we could be kind of more self-sufficient, to where, we could have some of the seniors around here giving these same rides for even a fraction of the cost, or making some of these same DoorDash deliveries or whatever else, and contain that whole economy, within its own application. And it could be city, owned or whatever, and the profits and whatever else could be
something
poured,
like a co-op, like almost.
Yeah, it could be poured right back into the city. Correct. Everybody could own it. Like fractionalize it, the ownership of it, and allow people to invest in it. Even with like all the developments. Some of these, projects could be fractionalized, where the city would say, you know what, okay, the arena costs $10 million. We're going to allow 2.5 of that to be generated from the city. So everyday mom and pop guys who go to work, they can have something to invest in and not have to really give it to, none of the Mag 7s, the Amazons and the Googles and the, whoever else, and the NVIDIAs. We could say, you know what, I'm going to buy, X amount of shares of, whatever Tower Pinkster's building next, or, whatever the city sees, money that could be allocated in different ways. So.
Right. So right now, Kalamazoo is a booming little city, right? Absolutely. We got a lot of construction going on, a lot of buildings putting up, a lot of money's being poured into the downtown area. You know what I mean? What do you think of the state of the city as itself? What do you think the state of the city is in right now?
Well, if you're looking at it from a macro perspective, it's great, right?
Right.
But, if you kind of get out the car, or if you're, not up on the, 7th or 8th floor and you got that bird's eye view, then you can kind of see that there's still pockets within the city that, things aren't so well. And, of course, we know that's more through intelligent design and everything else. And, it's obviously still through bad decision-making as well, But, even like now, right, downtown is booming, but on a good day, if you go downtown and you take a walk, you kind of, rare if you get what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ain't gonna see a lot of low income, for whatever color, right? Because not only is times hard, but it's an expensive walk, kind of, in the times of today. So my thing is, with the city booming so much, right, who gets to access it and how often? Like the State Theater, I was standing outside before I came in and just kind of taking that whole thing in, because one of my first concerts I went to was right in that building, to see Jagged Edge a while back. And, it was like, man, here, is this going to give way to the arena, or,
it's going to fit in some type of way.
Right, you would hope so, right? But then you look right next to it and you see where Harvey's, once existed. And it's like, what if that was somebody else's, right? What if, how often does, do we get that fair shot? I know we got, sprinkled in institutions here and there, but, I think it's very unbalanced, downtown, as all cities is. You can get in your car and drive from here to, the thumb or the midden, and you ain't gonna see a lot of, minority owned and black owned, businesses, up and down the highway. It's really incredible when you think about it. And then when you get out of the cities, all the farmland. I mean, so, when I think of downtown Kalamazoo, I think it's going to be great, right?
Right.
Do I think that it's going to be, equal opportunity? No. Do I think it's going to be, easily accessible? Perhaps.
Right.
But I guess it's all about, how we'll see it, but that kind of ties us into how do we restore the money, right? If you go to work every day.
I mean, they got the money, right? But it's all about what are they going to do with the money. You hear a lot about, the gun violence and the homeless is two major issues in Kalamazoo right now. You know what I mean? And I don't see any progress being made to do something about those two issues. You know what I mean? You got people still sleeping out on the sidewalk, and it's about to be wintertime. Come on now, y'all say y'all got hotels being put to the side, getting ready for the homeless, and y'all put so much money to the side to combat gun violence and this and that, and people still getting shot all the time in broad daylight. You know what I mean? So it's part of the city commissioner's job to allocate the money and make sure it gets spent the right way. You know what I mean? And my personal opinion is I don't feel like they're doing a good job right now. You know what I mean? It could be better. They could do better, in my opinion. So you right now, I think you would have been a fresh breath of air to the city commission. Me personally, that's what I was. I voted for you. Don't you know what I mean? I can't lie.
623, right?
Yeah, I definitely was, right. So it's something that you could bring different to the table. You know what I mean? Because they conservative. They think in one way. You know what I mean? They want to keep everything the way it is, and they don't want to change nothing or try nothing new. You see what I'm saying?
Well, and possibly that same formula, right, could be because, like you said, it provides the same solution. And if you look at what that solution causes us, we're losing, like you said, shootings in broad daylight or whatever, but, we're losing people left and right to incarceration and death, to where, you go give up 5, 10, 15 years of your life, right? For, the possession of a gun or possession of drugs or possession or whatever. So it's still, as I said earlier, it's all about decisions, and if you're deciding, hey, I'm going to take the risk, man, I'm going to get out here and get off the sidewalk, get out here in the street, and you get hit by a plane, you're only expecting, traffic cars and,
right.
But you step up that sidewalk and that plane hits you, and before you know it, you getting traveled all over the country, incarcerated. Mm-hmm. It's just like man, you could have done something so much better with that time and energy. You know, me personally, you know, I would have liked to heighten the gun penalties and the drug possessions. You know, especially for like the fentanyls and the ice and all that kind of, you know. And I'm not saying that one scheduled drug is better than the next, but you know, the stuff that we know that causes death and stuff like that in the communities, we really got to eliminate that or make it such a penalty to even touch it that you don't even consider it. You know, it's almost like you would rather roll your hand in some salmon and then put it in the cage with a bear. You know what I mean?
Get your hand bit off.
Then touch, you know, some of the guns and some of the drugs and stuff that, you know. Right. But obviously, you know, you can't do that as a penalty or an option. But, you know, so you just try to educate them.
Has gun violence personally affected you in Kalamazoo?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. You know, I mean, you know, I'm 44 years old, so, you know, I've lost a lot of friends through violence and through, you know, suicides with guns and stuff. So, yeah, and I never care for them at all, personally. I think that they provide too much power. Right. And in the world, unnecessary that much power is like, you know, what if we didn't have guns, right? You know, what if we didn't have war, I guess, almost as to say. Be a bunch of people out fighting and slapping with sticks or whatever, but, you know, death would not be as certain as it could be without that.
So with the city commission run behind you, right? It's done and over with. Turn the page. What can we expect next from Mr. Solomon Carpenter?
I think I mentioned it somewhat a little earlier. Like, you know, my goal is to, like, you know, how do I bring in tomorrow? You know, I always felt like I might be just a second more advanced than the time, you know. It's kind of like you driving in your car and you feel like you're sitting on the hood, you know what I mean, as opposed to behind the windshield, you know. You at the same speed, but you just got a better seat, you know what I mean? So you might get there just a little bit more first than the hood gonna get, I mean, the hood gets to the designation before the trunk. Right. Even though the car gets there at the same speed, so to speak. So
you got some programs you're thinking about?
Yeah, so I would love to implement, you know, some, you know, many programs throughout the city, and they're, you know, also small business ideals too. So, you know, it's not just all about, you know, I guess from a like youth standpoint, you know, some of them are things that offer employment and, you know, ultimately, you know, things that help save people in the city some type of, you know, something, right? Or, I love digital, you know, I love blockchain, really fascinated with crypto, you know.
Maybe start a financial class or something like that, something to teach them about finances. Because they don't teach that stuff in school. You know what I mean?
The one thing I know about finance is, which I've, you know, come to learn in the last handful of years, is that every income is fixed. You know, whether you're getting a check in the month or you're going to work for, you know, 40 to 60 hours, you know what you're going to make no matter what. So it's like, okay, well, if I know that this money is, you know, only going to be from X amount to X plus 2, then, you know, how does, you know, you do all your numbers and you say, okay, well, I make this in a year, and here go my outcome, here go my income, here go my outcome, and here go what I got left, without other deductions or expenses or whatever. And it's like, well, damn, I'm gonna have to work until, can we?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right.
Speak freely.
Right?
Yeah, so.
I was like, can I make it through this thing without profanity? But
yeah, you
so
good.
It's like I'm gonna have to work until I'm 100. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the minute you stop working,
everything falls apart.
And
everything falls apart. So we got to teach the youth about the credit and even the stock market. You know what I mean? Ways that the people use the credit in the system to get ahead. You know what I mean? If we could teach the youth that early on and not so much go to work every day, go home, work home, save. If we could teach them something else, get a program started where financial literacy is in there or something like that, I think that would be a great thing.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, and my thing, I guess, you know, where I was trying to land the plane at was like kind of just, you know, the greatest financial tool, I think, is to study the tool itself. And if the tool right now is the dollar, then study the dollar. You know what I mean? And understand, you know, how the same box of Little Debbie's that used to cost 99 cents, you know, Swiss cakes. I remember I eat the whole box, man.
Right.
For $1, what? Dollars everywhere around here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now cost, you know, upwards next to 3 times that amount. Then something may be wrong with the tool. So I'll land the plane right there on that with the finance. So.
Yep, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad you came on the show and I had a chance to talk to you and pick your brain a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you coming on, man. So tell the people where to find you at, you know, and what you got going on in the near future here.
Yeah. So again, my name is Solomon Carpenter. I'm on Facebook, Solomon Carpenter. For whatever reasons, you may want to look it up. You'll see a little bit more branding coming around from me and the Howard Rose collection here in 2026. You know, it's been around for a while, and I think, you know, I might be ready to let the city, you know, take a look at it and, you know.
Take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think from a social level, we might be ready, you know, because I don't want a bunch of guys wearing my stuff and girls wearing my stuff and they riff-raffing all around in it. And, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, what else you can probably look for? Like I said, you know, if something come up and you see some type of new application and it's, you know, where you can basically super app, you can be social, you can, you know, find a marketplace where you can save, borrow, and lend, you know, through the whole thing, you know, then I would think that I'm sitting on the hood of the car. So.
Okay. Well, we looking forward to that, man. We're going to be on the lookout for that. So, all right. Well, that concludes this episode of What's Really Good. I'm your host, Mr. Matthew Lipsey. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Stay tuned for the next episode. Y'all have a good night.